Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. This being episode 475. And you know what? That reminds me of something. Can anybody identify what this is? The episode number was a hint. So, I don't know. We'll see if I don't even know if anybody's even watching. This is a very unique round, and it is very large caliber. Okay. Here's my pinky next to the opening of that. Come on, any takers? Any guesses?
I think it's some sort of 475.
It is a 475.
Not a Magnum.
475 what? 475 what?
I don't know. Magnum? I don't know. No. 475. I don't know.
All right. It is a 475 Bishop. Which is a small company, I think based in Oregon, I think. Maybe California, someplace. I think West Coast. I could have that wrong. It's been a year since I saw them. It was a SHOT Show last year, Range Day. I came by this, not booth, but you know how Range Day is. And there's this small rifle building company, and they have these AR-15 platform guns that are really AR-10. Excuse me. I mean the 308 size, action and so forth. But their specialty is these. What they do is they take so that rim that you see on the bottom of this case is the same diameter as a 308. And but the case itself is enlarged, so it's what you call a rebated rim. The rim is smaller than the cartridge itself. And they specialize in this 475 caliber 0.475 inch round that, out of this big fat case, using a standard 308 AR-10 bolt and receiver and everything. And I don't remember all the ballistics numbers, but I'll just tell you this much. I put like three hits on a 1,000-yard target like it was nothing from, with this. So, and it's a big old round.
Wow.
A lot of recoil. Anyway, so it was kind of fun. And that just reminded me of that. Episode 475 and the 475 Bishop. I bet brass is not cheap, but I asked them, I was like, do you mind if I have this? They're like, sure. Okay, so guys, today's episode is going to be a good one. Speed or accuracy. All right. And how can we get better at both? I think that's a question to be asked, and it's a tricky question. I mean, this is like the thing that people, struggle with, right? Like that everybody wants to get more accurate and faster. And how do you do both? So apparently Mark's familiar with Bishop. I think Bishop Arms Manufacturing, or I can't remember the exact company name, but he's commenting here. California company, $3,000 rifle. Yes, it was expensive, but very cool. I mean, look at that beast. I mean, there's my pinky. It's basically as long as my pinky, and I can stick the tip of the end of my pinky in the opening of it. So anyway, that means Matthew's whole finger would fit inside this.
2 fingers. I have small hands, guys, though. But at least they're proportioned to my body, so that's good.
Oh, Mark's familiar with Google. Okay, gotcha, buddy. So I was right about it being a California company then. That's cool. I remember that at least. All right, so let's get into the recorded audio portion of today's show. A little heads up. if any of you if you've happened to notice in past weeks or even months, because it's been going on for a while, there's some audio issues, like a digital interference type, issue with my audio, and primarily with mine. And we are aware, and I've been trying to fix it for weeks, and still I'm running out. I'm just struggling with it. So just so you know, I am doing an analog recorded backup of my audio, and I'm spending more time going forward editing episodes so we can continue to put out a quality podcast to the podcast feed. Shed says speed isn't worth anything without accuracy. Slow is smooth is fast. Okay. Thank you for your comment, Shad. I'm going to save that one for later. That's going to be a nice little kibble to like nibble on. Kibbles and bits. I'm going to nibble on that one. All right. I'm going to come back to that. That's a good comment. All right, guys. So the reason I'm telling you that is in case you want to know about, any issues that have happened with the audio, just trying to fix it and going forward now, so I can make it a little bit easier to sync the two files that I'm going to have to combine to create one good quality file. I'm going to add a clap before we begin recording. So just an FYI. All right. So let's do this thing. Recording beginning in 3, 2, 1. This is a Concealed Carry podcast, episode number 475. And welcome to the Concealed Carry podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network. I am your host, Riley Bowman, and I'm joined today by our producer and scheduler and other awesome things doer person, Matthew Marister.
What's up, man? Just happy to have you still calling me out and having me come on the podcast. Nobody's demanded that I get axed from the list, so that's good. Thanks, listeners. So try to keep coming with some good content.
Well, some of them are trying to axe me because of some audio quality issues in recent weeks. Actually, it probably goes back a couple of months, to be honest. It's been intermittent. Even within an episode, it's been intermittent. So just know we are aware of that, and hope to try something else entirely today, and hopefully it is the fix for at least the immediate future. So anyway, welcome to today's show. Today's topic is speed or accuracy, and how can we get better at both? Be an interesting topic. It ties in with our Shooter Ready Challenge for the month of January. Just released a few days ago on shooterreadychallenge.com. That's where you can go and watch the latest video about the Shooter Ready Challenge. We do this monthly challenge, challenging you to get off your butts, get off those couches, get out of those lazy boys, turn off the TV, or if you want to do it with the TV in the background, that's fine. But I prefer to focus when I do my dry fire. But get off your butts and get out there and practice dry fire. All right. It's a valuable training tool, especially in this day and age with the way ammunition availability and costs are. So, guys, go to shooterreadychallenge.com and participate. All right. Watch the videos and use these videos and the things I talk about as ideas for how you can do dry fire practice better and get better. Again, shooterreadychallenge.com is where to find it. This episode and Shooter Ready Challenge is sponsored by lasrapp.com. That's laserapp.com in case you're wondering. Head on over to lasrapp.com and learn about the laser activated shot reporter system, which is, in my opinion, the best dry fire laser feedback tool on the market. All right. So the new Laser X software is the latest and greatest and is continually being updated and improved and features added to it. It has a whole set of built-in challenges, which was kind of the basis for Shooter Ready Challenge in the beginning for the first year that we did Shooter Ready Challenge. So using those challenges is really cool and a great tool. But you can also just do freestyle practice or use it to provide metrics or measure your performance in dry fire, including stuff like your draw time and speed, time between shots, theoretical accuracy on targets. Again, this is all done in the comfort of your home, with walls pasted up on, or with targets pasted up on your walls, and using laser dry fire tools like the Next Level Training CERT pistol, or things like our laser dot training cartridge sold by readyupgear.com, that you fire your shots on your target and the camera sees and records that data in the software. It's fantastic. Okay. It is one of the only ways you can get exact, precise, accurate measurement of performance in dry fire. Again, I mentioned just a second ago, Next Level Training and their fantastic CERT pistols. Go to nextleveltraining.com. They're also supporters of this podcast and of shooterreadychallenge.com. Head on over to nextleveltraining.com, pick up a CERT pistol today. That's the tool I use when I particularly want to measure dry fire performance with multiple shots. All right. So let's get into it. Speed or accuracy? Matthew, you watched Shooter Ready Challenge, I take it?
Yep.
All right. Your first take. Like what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so Shooter Ready Challenge, I'll just give you the overview and then you can dive into the specifics about it. But we on other episodes of Shooter Ready Challenge, you've kind of mentioned about speed mode and accuracy mode, and why both of them are very important in training, like holistically in that respect, right? Like we can't train specifically for speed all the time or specifically for accuracy all the time, because shooting quickly, whether it's a defensive context or in a competitive context, it's a balance of the two, right? So we have to kind of define what is accuracy, what is speed relevant to the problem we're trying to solve, and then how can we train each of those aspects so we don't build training scars as far as doing something, trying to go too quick at the beginning and not getting the fundamentals right, or on the other extreme, getting the fundamentals so right but never kind of pressure testing it by speed, and kind of flatlining our plateau of learning, or increasing our skill level, I guess. So I think you utilize the software again really well to kind of balance those two, or to kind of be able to use both of them to your advantage.
Yeah. So I mentioned the built-in challenges in the Laser X app, and one of the cool things they do in those challenges is they don't refer to them as accuracy mode, speed mode, and match mode or real mode, for instance, but that's what it is. There's a speed component. So you do whatever drill it is that the challenge is based around, you do it with an accuracy focus. And the way that works is the software doesn't penalize you for how long it takes you to make a shot. It just measures purely how accurate your shots are. And the idea when you're working through those challenges is that you do some number of repetitions, or for however much period of time you do that particular drill, solely focused on as perfect of accuracy as you can get. So good shots. Time is not even factored into the equation. Then after you've done a number of repetitions and you've earned, that's the thing with the challenges, it's kind of cool. You can earn 1, 2, and 3 stars depending on your performance. And if you I typically try to get at least 2 stars before I move on to something else. Getting 3 is ideal. But yeah, you decide when it is time for you to move on, and then the next thing you move on to is the speed challenge. And now you're doing the same drill, but accuracy is no longer a factor. And by that, we have to be somewhere on the target paper for the software to read our hits. So there's there's a very loose standard of accuracy that has to be there, at least in order to capture the data to begin with. But the point is that the accuracy is no longer a factor in the equation, but now it's purely about how fast can I do this drill. And that's a really great natural progression for a lot of people. And it's a good way of approaching things to an extent. And I'll explain what that extent is. But the idea is that we're working on accuracy, and then we're working on speed, right? But then at some point we have to put the two together. And that's where it gets tricky for people, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, to be honest, if I'm speaking honestly with you, I think that meeting the accuracy standard is that's the easy part. Okay. So now for me to come back to that comment I made a moment ago about that there's this extent, there's this limit that we reach as we're trying to develop our skill and our performance. And what that is that there's a point where accuracy becomes, I think, less of a focus. At least it has become so for me. And by that, I don't mean that I let my accuracy suffer. I mean that I've practiced to a point where I know I can make all the shots that are required of me. Okay, my accuracy level is already pretty high. Okay. And so now most of my dry fire practice is a little more focused on developing speed or putting speed and accuracy together. Okay. I spend very little actually just working on accuracy. This is where it gets interesting because there are some other products out there, including one very popular one that I'm not going to mention by name because there's starting to be a little more competition between this product and the laser app software, but and it has a lot of great merits to it, and we've talked about it many times on this podcast very favorably, and I'm still a user of that product, but in different contexts. But what I see most people using that other product for is working on things that are accuracy related. And again, accuracy is good, and we can always get a little bit better, but there's definitely a point we hit where diminishing returns really set in, and it's like, well, I could continue getting better, but I just need to know that I can hit, if I'm shooting slow fire. Okay, so this would be a good standard. This would be a good point to make, Matthew. If you, in slow fire, meaning you take as long as you need to make an accurate shot, in slow fire, if you can shoot a 100 on a B8 target at 25 yards, I don't think there's a whole lot more that you really need to work on accuracy-wise, okay? That to me is the standard. If you can score a 100 on a B8 target, okay, in the center, the 10 ring on a B8 target is 3.36 inches, I believe. If you can group 3.36 inches at 25 yards in slow fire, everything else that you really need to work on is more of it's applying that accuracy potential within a time standard, if that makes sense. Okay, so you could say, well, I want to be able to drill. I want to be able to shoot 3.36 inch groups at 50 yards. Well, good on you. But you don't really need that level of accuracy performance for practical purposes. And by that, I mean, whether it's competition shooting, as far as action pistol shooting, whether it's USPSA or IDPA, IPSC, that kind of thing, You don't need to be more accurate than what I just explained. Okay. And in a self-defense context, yeah, you really don't need to be, you don't need to be able to make 3-inch groups of 50 yards. Okay. So if you cannot shoot a 100 score on a B8 target at 25 yards, then yeah, you have some work you can do on accuracy. And so do that. Okay. But there comes a point where, and that's, I've been there for a while. I can shoot, slow fire B8s, 100 score, pretty darn consistently. And occasionally I make mistakes. It's true. But with consistency, in slow fire, I can drill 100 all day long. So now the focus becomes more on the speed side of the equation for me. So most of my time is, well, can I get better? Can I get faster at my draw? Okay, well, I've gotten that down pretty good. So now it's really another point of diminishing returns on draw. So, okay, what else? Well, my reload, frankly, still kind of sucks. Now, I haven't put a lot of emphasis into it in recent history because performing a reload in a defensive context or a tactical one is not that high a probability. So for me, my focus has been, I need to know and have confidence that I can hit the targets that I want to hit accuracy wise. Okay, met that standard. Now I need to know I can get my gun out in a certain time frame or to a certain standard. If you can do it consistently in less than a second, okay, you meet that standard. Like now it's all about diminishing returns if you're going to go beyond that, right? So now it's like, well, what are the other things? Okay, and there's a lot of them, but in dry fire, something that makes a lot of sense for me to work on because it costs very little to do, and it's just a great place to work on it. And stuff like reloads, and now reloads are a lot more important to me in the competition world, that I spend a lot of my time competing now in as well. So now it's all, so now what's my goal? My goal is to be able to perform a consistent 1 second reload. All right. Right now I'm like a 1.2, 1.25, but there's plenty of times I still flub it and end up at 1.5 or 1.75. So I really need to get more consistent at 1.25, and then I got to get, more consistent, even faster than that to hit the standard that I'm going for. So does that make sense? So anyway, point is, backing that all up, there's accuracy and there's speed. You need to know that you can make certain shots accuracy wise, but there comes a point where it just becomes all about speed and then applying that accuracy within that context of speed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the old, I'm sure as you guys have probably scrolled through Facebook posts and stuff like that, almost inevitably in like these chat rooms, you'll see, or chat groups or whatever, you'll see somebody post a picture of their target, and it'll be like the center will be completely blown out. And they're like, hey, how is this at, this was at 10 yards and, a box of ammo. But there's no context to it. It's, well, did that take you 15 minutes to shoot that? Did it take you 2 seconds? Right? Like there's no context. So accuracy without speed, there's times where you can take a very accurate shot and you need to hit a 10 ring, a dime size hole at, I don't know, 10 yards or whatever. There's probably application for that. But there's also application that, more probable application, especially since we're talking about defensive shooting, where we have to kind of identify what is accuracy, right? Because like if we just say, sometimes accuracy isn't as important as speed, there's always somebody's going to stand up and say, well, if you miss, it doesn't matter. Like accuracy is very important, of course, right? Like, but what do we define as accuracy in these contexts? At 5 yards, accuracy might be, a 6-inch circle, right? Like anything in that 6-inch circle, of course, I want to tight groups if I can, but Accuracy is accuracy. So sometimes we get so kind of focused on, I must be completely accurate, that it's hard for us to push ourselves and get to the point where we start missing because we're trying to add speed in there. And so I see that with students a lot, and I'm sure you do too. Like, we're so focused on, we have to get hits, that even in training, we don't allow ourselves to kind of push it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So let me come back to this comment that Shad in our Facebook comments made a few minutes ago, and I told him I would come back to it. And Shad says, speed isn't worth anything without accuracy. Slow is smooth is fast. Okay. First of all, I'm gonna preface this by saying, go back and listen to the episode 472 that I just did with Tim Herron a couple episodes ago, and listen to what he has to say about slow is smooth, smooth is fast, or that concept. All right. And I'm gonna add some more thoughts to that as well here in just a moment. But let's address this: speed isn't worth anything without accuracy. So there is this thought process that accuracy trumps all. It's like the old Wyatt Earp quote, right? Like, speed is fine and accuracy is final, or something to that effect, right? Yes, I understand the concept that speed is irrelevant if you can't hit what you're trying to shoot, and that's based in the point I was making a moment ago about, we need to know, like, we need to establish an accuracy standard for ourselves. We need to know what we are capable of. We need to know what we can do accuracy wise, because it doesn't make any sense at all to really do anything if I can't hit the target, right? Mm-hmm. Like that is the basis. We have to be able to hit a target. And go back to last week's episode you and I did, Matthew. We talked about, what are some of the most important skills CCWers need to have. Mm-hmm. There was definitely some meat in that episode that kind of touches on this as well. That that there's some basic fundamentals, if you will, foundational skills, techniques, etc. That, like, as far as hold that gun still, press trigger without moving gun off target, and fire the shot kind of approach. Basically hold the gun on target while we press the trigger without disrupting the sight alignment. That's as simple as it can get, as far as explaining how we hit something we're trying to hit. But yes, it's true that if accuracy doesn't exist, then nothing else really matters. So we have to have that basic, that baseline performance in terms of accuracy. But let's flip this around, right? Can it be said that accuracy isn't worth anything without speed? Well, I think it's fair to say that that's not always true. But I would say that in many defensive or tactical situations, it is true.
Sure.
Right? Because maybe you're the world's best bullseye shooter, but you're used to taking all kinds of time to make those great shots, right? And you've never spent any time or put in a lot of effort to pushing yourself in terms of that speed. Well, there are problems that, regardless of how good of a shot you are, will not be solved if you don't have some kind of speed involved, right? So yes, there are situations where accuracy isn't worth anything if you don't get it done in time enough, right? You've got a shot timer in a gunfight. We don't know when the beep goes off, and there is no beep, right? But at some point, that go signal makes itself known, and it's time to go. And it's us against our opponent, right? That's the par time. The par time is, as soon as that go signal happens, 0.1 seconds, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, the time is ticking up and the par time of when I need to get my work done. By that meaning getting my rounds on him, on my threat, that par time is however long it takes for him to do the same to me. Right? It's a race against each other. We don't know what that par time is. We don't know how skilled our opponent is. They could be the lousiest shot in the universe, but hey, even monkeys fall out of trees, right? So they might get lucky, and that, we don't know. We don't know. But what I can tell you is that I want to be as fast as I can be, while still also being reasonably accurate. Okay, so to Shad's point here, speed isn't worth anything without accuracy. Yeah, true, but it doesn't mean that speed isn't important. In fact, in some contexts, it's extremely important. Okay, because if we are in an entangled situation, if we are right up there with our adversary, with our opponent, okay, accuracy, I mean, it is sort of irrelevant. If you can't point shoot on somebody that's arm's length away, then there's something wrong with you. Like, you suck, right? Speed is like, if we're measuring things on a scale, accuracy at that point is like a 1, and speed is a 99 in terms of importance. Right? Because honestly, and actually, Matt Little just talked about this last night in our Guardian Nation Live event. Guys, if you missed that, you either want to be a Guardian Nation member so you can go back and catch it, and if you already are a Guardian Nation member, go watch the live event. Now, I don't think it's been published to the members area yet, but it will be here soon, within a couple of days. He talked about how there's contexts where, yeah, you just want to get around on target somewhere, because by doing so, it starts changing what's going on in the fight, right? Even if we don't hit them high center mass where we want to, we hit them a little bit lower or in a lot less vital location. Yeah, that's not ideal. Sometimes there's contexts where that makes sense. I just want to get around on them, because by doing that, that changes the variables, because that may cause them to react to being hit. Not always, but a lot of times it will. So again, there's contexts where speed is really, really, really important and accuracy less so, and there's contexts where accuracy takes front and center stage. But a lot of the times, we need a good combination of both.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I'll just throw this in there kind of again to reinforce what you're saying is about context and about situationally dependent facts, right? Like, or factors that play a role in the fight. We may be in close proximity, but a quick draw isn't what we need. Right? We might need a surreptitious draw or wait for a specific time. Or we may be at a good distance and a quick draw is what's necessary, because, think about the Jack Wilson incident. He was at a distance, and if we assume that, okay, we're at distance, we have more time, that's not necessarily true, because this guy was actively executing people around him. So a quick draw and the ability to also apply an accuracy shot was important. So we have to understand that, like, these aren't in situations that are that we get to determine. We may be running, we may be moving, we might have just been running, right? To active shooter or something, and we're running, and then we have to fight. So it's like it's hard to base everything that we do on how accurate can I shoot or how fast can I draw. We have to look at it at a bigger, at these skills in a bigger context, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Comment here from Roy on Facebook. He says, I can put a full clip magazine for my 45 and a 6-inch plate. All right, Roy, I'm going to ask you to comment some more. All right. Tell us, at what distance can you do that? And in what amount of time? All right. I'll be waiting for your answer. I want to know what distance and how fast. Like, tell me precisely in what amount of time you can do that. All right. So a full magazine, and you said 45. I don't know. Is that 1911? Let's just go with that. Let's say 1911, 8 rounds in a 6-inch plate. Okay. All right. Tell me distance and time that you can do that in. All right. Shad says, understand your point. You shouldn't be pushing speed beyond the accuracy you need in any situation. And that is the key. Okay. So how do we get the right balance of accurate speed? How? That's really what we're here to talk about today, or at least that's a big part of it. One thing, the whole like slow is smooth, smooth is fast saying. Again, go back to and listen to the conversation I had with Tim Herron about that in episode 472. But here's something I'll throw out about that. Just by practicing things slowly does not automatically mean you will get smoother, and whatever that means, by the way. And by so doing that does not automatically mean you're going to get faster. Just because you do slow repetitions does not automatically lead to you doing those things fast at some point. Okay. It will to an extent, as far as like the more times we do something, the easier it becomes, and naturally, because of the way our brain and our bodies learn and develop, we're going to have some natural inherent efficiency or speed that occurs as a result of just doing things again and again and again and again. But I will tell you, in the context of drawing and shooting a gun quickly and accurately, that only gets you so far, and it isn't far enough. All right. Doing things slowly does not automatically lead to you doing them well and doing them quickly. That's why we have accuracy mode and speed mode practice. Okay. So in the iteration, we define what those are. This video this month, talk about, accuracy, practicing accuracy with no thoughts or consideration for speed, just working on what skills are applied to get a desired result in terms of accuracy, right? Speed mode practice is doing, so let's just use the draw as an example. Okay. Drawing from a holster, getting the gun up on target, firing, say, just one shot. All right. Well, we throw the accuracy standard out the window, and we just try to physically do those things as fast as we can within reasonable limits, right? Because like if you're just going fast for the sake of going fast, but your technique is all jacked up, then it's kind of pointless as well, right? So we want to, we're going to do slow repetitions to learn accuracy, but also to learn how to do things hopefully correctly with the right technique, right? And this kind of is drawing upon Scott Jelinski's. He has kind of a famous quote, if you will, that oh shoot, let me see if I can quote it accurately. In fact, I have it written down here. I normally can pull this right out of my butt, but I'm not remembering right now as well as I want to. I thought I had it jotted down here. But anyway, speed and accuracy come from technique, or from efficiency. Efficiency comes from technique. I think did I get that right? Speed and accuracy come from efficiency, and efficiency comes from technique. Okay. So we got to do things correctly. That's what that's saying. Doing it correctly in the most efficient manner. So my hands and everything getting to the gun in the shortest path, okay, the most efficient way is going to result in speed. Getting the gun out of the holster, getting my hands joined together, right, on the grip, and getting that out to the target in the shortest, most efficient path and method, like that's going to result in efficient technique. That's going to give me speed. and accuracy, because as I do that correctly and with efficiency, not only am I going to get faster, but my presentation and everything is going to be more consistent. More consistency is going to mean accuracy is going to improve. So a lot here to really dig into and think about, but just understand that that working on things slowly does not automatically lead to doing those things well and doing them at speed. Getting fast, basically what I'm saying here is, to get more accurate, we need to work on accuracy. To get faster, we need to work on doing things faster.
And being, you know, let me add something in that helps me. And sometimes it resonated with some students, and maybe some of the listeners will resonate with. Sometimes it's about doing things faster, and sometimes it's about doing things sooner, like more efficiently, right? So we can only physically move so fast, right? We all understand that. And some people move quicker than others in certain aspects. But if we can squeeze the trigger sooner, we may not have to necessarily move any faster, as long as we're being more efficient. And so I think that that's a distinction that sometimes gets lost, because we're just frenetically trying to move faster. But due to our limitations of being humans, we either can't see the sights quickly enough, or we just can't present the gun any quicker or whatnot. So to kind of like continue to just frenetically do these same motions, you're not necessarily going to get faster or more efficient. You have to understand, you know, the technique. Somebody will say, okay, well, if you do this, you're doing all these things good. But if you do this, just by merely not swinging your arm out this way or keeping it closer to your body, you're probably going to cut off a quarter of a second just by doing that. You don't have to move anything else faster. And so it's those types of things that once you hit that plateau, that we're working on, we're doing things sooner, we're being more efficient because we have the technique down already. We're just kind of like fine tuning it and doing that. So.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad that you're talking about that. And this, I use the word sooner all the time as well. Please know that there are a lot of times I might say faster, and ultimately what I really am saying is doing things in less time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what doing things in less time is doing things sooner. What's the distinction? So sooner is pretty much always faster, but faster is not always sooner, right? So, and what I mean by that is, you can have a lot of speed. For instance, like let's say we set up a simple drill, box A and box B, and 10 yards away or 12 yards away, we have a single plate, an 8-inch steel plate, right? And I say, okay, on the beep, I want you to draw. You're standing in box A. I want you to fire 2 rounds on that plate, and then run to box B and fire 2 rounds on that plate again. All right. You could take a shooter. You can take 2 shooters. You can take one that is young, in good shape, you know, lightweight but strong, and they will be able to cover that distance from box A to box B really fast, right? That, you know, they can fire those 2 rounds, and then they just explode out of that box, and they go full speed into box B, and they get into box B, and then they, you know, get set up and try to get those 2 last shots on the plate, right? So that's one person. And you take someone like me that's more middle-aged now and a little heavier than I used to be, and uglier too, and you know, let's just say that my skill with this younger, lighter, faster shooter is pretty well matched in terms of draw speed and shooting ability. But he's got that speed exploding out of box A and running box B. I don't. But yet I've seen shooters I can beat all day long. And why is that? Well, because shooter A, or shooter 1, I guess, don't get confused with box A and box B. Their approach might be stand there, draw, fire 2 rounds, then take off, right? And then they come into box B, and they got to come into box B and get put the brakes on, get their feet underneath them again, get balanced, get the gun up on target, and fire 2 more rounds. Meanwhile, what my approach would be? I would draw, and as I was drawing, my right foot would start I'd start lifting a little bit off, okay? As my gun comes up on target, I'd see my red dot on the target. I'd fire shot 1. My right foot would start to move. I would fire shot 2. And as this is all happening, my foot's coming up. It's starting to step out of the box without leaving the box yet. My body's starting to lean. And then the second shot is fired. And as soon as that second shot's fired, I'm off. But I've already set myself up and started changing my momentum to be leaving as I'm firing that that first and second shot, especially. And then I'm moving over to box B. And as I'm coming into box B, I'm coming in, I'm starting to shorten up my steps as I'm approaching the box. My gun is coming up in front of my face. Before my first foot steps into the box, I'm going to see my dot on or near the target. That first foot gets in the box. I'm refining that sight picture. As my second foot lifts to come into the box and join my first foot, I'm firing the first shot. Bang, bang. Okay? And my shooting will probably be a little bit slower, split-wise, because my shots are a little bit, I have to be a little more careful because I'm not in as stable as a position doing things in this manner. And my overall running speed will be slower because I'm just slower than the younger, faster kid. But I've seen this done, and I've done this to people all the time. And I beat some young people in a match last Saturday. On one stage, the fastest time to me was like 7 or 8 seconds slower. One stage. And there was a nice young, really fast moving kid. Okay, and he's an up and comer. He's going to be a really good shooter, a really good competitor before long. I smoked him. If you looked at him run the stage, I'm sure I didn't actually see him shoot it, but I'm sure he just looked like he was flying through that thing. But he probably also had a bunch of makeup shots on steel and some other inefficiencies that were lost. Nevertheless, even with all that speed, he's losing some efficiency because he's not setting himself up to be more efficient, right? Like the way I described it, I'm going to shoot a little bit slower, but I'm going to make those hits count, but I'm going to get my body moving sooner and earlier, and I'm going to get my gun up on target sooner and earlier as I'm coming into box B and taking those shots. That's the idea, okay? So I use it as an example because faster is not always sooner or less time, okay? And that's really key. And don't get tricked into believing what your eyes tell you, right? Because you might look at 2 different shooters shooting the same stage or drill and go, that one looks faster than this one. But the timer is what counts, and the timer doesn't lie. And just because something looks fast doesn't mean it actually is fast. Anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I agree with you totally. And I think, if for somebody who's hasn't refined their abilities to that point, right? Like you spend a lot of time shooting and competing and running. There's a lot of people out there that are listening that don't have the ability to move on range, to do these things, live fire, right? They're restrictive ranges, or they just have never really thought about it, right? Like, how do I shoot coming into a position or leaving a position? How do I become more efficient in all the things, not just draw stroke, but, like your example, moving and things like that. So I think this is another plug for dry fire. Like you may not be able to run around on a range or move from 2 different points, but if you can set that up in your home somehow where you have a little area to move around in, these are really important skills that you can practice through dry fire, and obviously there's nothing that replaces live fire, but this is where you could get your feet wet and start kind of refining those basic skills. And then, you have that foundation to kind of work from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so starting to build some more off of the how do we get faster, how do we get better at both things, right? Because essentially what we're saying up to this point in this episode is when we're talking speed and we're talking accuracy, you need to choose one or the other. That is your focus, particularly when you're practicing. Again, to a point. I don't want to give away the whole. I'm not trying to give away the whole farm here. But what I'm saying up to this point is practice accuracy and practice speed. Okay. Beware of doing things and trying to do them both at the same time and say to yourself that you're working on both at the same time. That's not how it works. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're shooting a bill drill, classic drill, right? So let's say you're trying to get that gold standard 2-second or less clean bill drill, right? It's a high bar for shooters, for most shooters especially. Okay, so let's say you run it, all right, and you run the bill drill and you shoot it well, let's say that you shoot it in 2.1 seconds, and it's clean. So all 6 good hits, great, got my hits, but I didn't get the time standard. I was 0.1 second over the 2 seconds. All right, let's run it again. And so the time I run it again, and I think to myself, I'm just going to try to get my hand to the gun a little bit earlier, a little bit sooner. Okay. I'm going to make just one little tweak to what I was doing, see if I can't buy myself a little more time. All right, here we go. Let's do it again. Boom. And I run it again. And this time I run it in 1.96 seconds. But I drop one shot. This is the dilemma for so many shooters when they're trying to get faster and accurate at the same time. And they will work on stuff and run drills side by side, and one drill will be faster than the other but less accurate, and the other one will be more accurate but less slow or less fast. And then they're sitting there going, crap, like it's so frustrating. Like I just want to get 2 seconds or less all hits in the A zone. And no matter what you do, it seems like you're bouncing all around that. You can do it faster, but drop a shot or two, or you can get all your hits and be a little bit slower. And that doesn't really help you. Okay. It can be frustrating as a shooter to sit there and go, what am I missing? How do I get this under the 2 seconds and get all my hits? It is very difficult to work on both speed and accuracy at the same time. And if that's what you're doing, which is what most people do when they work on drills, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to do this dance back and forth, slower, faster, more accurate, less accurate, back and forth. Okay. So what I'd propose is shoot a bill drill in whatever time it takes to get all your hits. All right. So let's just say I'm at the range, I'm practicing. Shot timer goes off. Beep. I draw, and I don't try to rush anything, but I do a pretty good draw. I get my gun up on target, and I just fire 6 good shots. And let's say my time was 2.5, 250. I'm a half second slower than where I want to be. And let's just say that I just shot that 2.1 bill drill all clean, and now I'm doing it at 2.5 clean. Ah, man, I know I can do 2.1. But no. Don't worry about that. Just shoot it a couple of times and just shoot it at a pace that you can get all 6 hits no matter what you do. And pay attention to what you're seeing in your sights as you're doing that. All right? All right. Now, let's work on the speed side. All right. Ignore whether you get all A zones. In fact, ignore if you don't even get everything in the C zone. And maybe, you know what? If you drop a shot off the whole dang target, don't beat yourself up. Let's just see what you can do speed-wise. Let's go fast. All right, go. Bam, man. You whip out a 1.7. You go again, you whip out a 1.6. Okay. When you're not penalizing yourself on accuracy, you recognize, wow, it looks like a shot thing with a shotgun from, 40 yards, right? Hits all over the place. That's terrible. That's counterproductive. Except that it's not, because when I'm working on speed, I'm working on trying to get more efficient in all the stuff I do, making making that initial part of my draw, getting my hand to the gun, getting a garment cleared out of the way, whatever, making that take less time. Getting my gun out of the holster and up to where my hands meet take less time. Getting my gun out on target take less time. Okay. Finding my dot or my sights take less time. And some of it is that our brain and our vision needs to catch up with what's happening. Like we're physically capable of doing all that stuff really fast. And maybe even the sights are there half the time, but we're not recognizing visually when things are where, like we're just not seeing stuff soon enough or fast enough. Okay. Well, the more you expose yourself to that higher rate of speed, the more your brain starts picking up on patterns, and you start recognizing things and understanding what's going on a little bit better with greater clarity. And you go, oh, wow, hey, now I'm starting to see more stuff. All right. After you spend some time practicing on doing things fast and getting more efficient, now let's bring it back into accuracy and speed together. How do we do that? Matthew, what do you think?
Yeah, so I like, how breaking down each element is really important. And I like, once because as you're talking, I was thinking about this, the skills required to shoot a clean bill drill at 7 yards and get a time of, I think you said like 2.4 seconds or 2.2, whatever, are no different really than the skills necessary to shoot it at 1.6 seconds, right? It's just, we refine those skills. And I think if we don't ever push ourselves to do that, right, our eyes will never, it's kind of like a muscle, right? Like if you work the same muscle and get to a certain point, like where you hit a certain weight limit, and that's all you ever do, you might be really, there's nothing wrong with that. You probably got stronger, but you're not going to ever get, be able to lift 200 pounds if you never try to lift 200 pounds. Right. And so I think like if we don't try to shoot faster, our eyes are never going to develop the necessary, sight picture in our mind, the connection to our mind quick enough, because it never has to do that. And so I want to caution you guys just to not beat yourselves up. If you seem like, I can shoot a bill drill clean, it takes me 2.2, but I just can't get under 2 seconds. I guess I can never do it. I don't have the skills, or I'm doing something wrong. It's likely that you probably have the skills. It's just a refinement of those. So, and I guess, I probably didn't answer the question about like, once you put them both together, right? It's, then you're kind of pressure testing it. Like what can I do when I'm trying to be both accurate and, get my speed? I think, I'll just really quickly, a lot of when I'm teaching brand new shooters and I first put them on a timer and I'll have them do like a controllability drill. It's basically like a reduced bill drill. It's 3 rounds instead of 6, and it's done at 3 yards and like a 6-inch circle. And I'll just ask them like contextually, how long do you think that should take you? And they have no idea, because they've never put their shooting skills into any sort of context. And you'll see that, first they're shooting at like 3 or 4 seconds, and it's ridiculous, right? Like you're like, I know you can shoot faster. And I'll tell them, once I see that they have a fundamentals, I'll say, shoot faster. And they'll be like, I don't know. I don't want to shoot faster. I need to see the sights. I want to be perfect. And I'm like, don't worry about being perfect, shoot faster, and try to push them to break out of that kind of feeling where I'm putting my own self-imposed brakes on. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but it's sort of kind of what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know, it's pretty common a lot of times amongst shooters and amongst even some instructors, where when I mean, what's the common thing that people will say, Matthew, when let's say you watch somebody shoot a 1.9 bill drill, but they drop 2 shots? Well, what is a common response? Like, how do they fix that? How do they do better?
Yeah, somebody will say, well, just shoot faster, or just, squeeze the trigger quicker.
But they're already going fast. They're going 1.9, right?
Yeah.
But they're dropping shots. So conversely, my point is that a lot of times people say, well, slow down a little bit. Slow down,
yeah.
get your hits,
Right.
and then try to build that speed back up. That doesn't do anybody any good. Slowing down, that's not that. I already know if I slow down, I can get all my hits.
Right.
Right. All right. So here's the key. The key is that we work on accuracy, right, by itself, till we have absolute confidence that we have what it takes, skill wise, fundamental wise, whatever you want to call it, to put hits where we want to. Okay. In whatever amount of time that it takes, doesn't matter. But I know that I can put the shot right where I want it. Okay. Then we work on going fast. Okay. Doing things efficiently, implementing speed. We work on speed. All right. In the process of doing that, we learn the mechanical aspects. That means, your biomechanics. That means running the gun mechanics. We learn how to do the shooting piece of it fast. Okay. The mechanical part of it. All right. But a side benefit of doing things faster than what we're comfortable with is that we give ourselves the opportunity to start seeing things and getting used to things at speed. And as the more we work on that, the more and more it gets easier for us to do things like pick up or see our sights sooner, being able to track our sights, right? Track them all the way through the recoil arc, all of that. Okay. Because the more we expose ourselves to that, the more we start going, oh, I'm noticing a pattern. I rattled off 5 quick shots, and I noticed by about the 3rd or 4th shot that I see that my sight's doing this and kind of coming up to the same point and going back down to the same point every time. And you just start seeing stuff. You're like, whoa, wow, hey, look at that. And you start, for the first time in your life, maybe learning how to track your sights and doing other things as well. Okay. So that starts adding up collectively. And then when we bring the accuracy piece back into it, now the key is we do all the mechanical things, the draw, getting the hands on the gun, getting the gun on target, all of that as fast as we are able to do. Okay. All of the non-shooting stuff we do as fast as we can. All right. And we should have done a ton of repetitions, and we've put in this effort learning how to develop speed and draw at speed and all this stuff, manipulate the gun at speed. And we get that gun up on target faster than we ever have before. All of a sudden, the shooting might almost seem like the easy part, because before, when we were getting that 2.1 bill drill, we were taking 1.25 seconds just to get the gun up on target, just to draw the gun. And so then we felt like we had to run the trigger super fast, faster than what we could shoot reasonably, so we can try to hit that 2-second standard. Now I'm able to get that gun out and on target in 1 second or 0.9. Now I've got almost a half second more in time to make 6 decent shots. Not only that, you recognize, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, instead of trying to run 15 splits, I'm running 20 splits, and I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing my dot come up and come back down, and I'm riding that streak, and I'm hitting my shots as I see that dot come back down. Or you're shooting irons, and you see that front sight jump up out of the rear notch, and you see it come up, and you track it, and you see it start coming back down, and it comes back into that notch, and you go, there it is again, and you send the next shot, and you're shooting slightly slow splits, but you're doing everything else faster, and suddenly your shooting is easier because you're seeing things better and sooner, and you're not having to rush to shoot the gun, but you're doing all the non-shooting stuff faster than you ever have before. Magically, all of a sudden, you're nailing 1.9, 1.8 bill drills all day long, clean. All right. That's what I'm talking about here. And the key is in the moment when we are shooting, when we are performing, and that's what it is. This is what we call match mode or real mode, or I would refer to as simply performance. Okay. Everything else up to this point is training or experimentation or developing skill. But now is the time for me to shine. Now is the time for me to just run the gun and perform. And the way you do that the best is by worrying about the only thing that matters: seeing your sights on the target and pressing the trigger when you see an acceptable sight picture. That's the only thing that matters. And the faster or the sooner you're able to see things, the sooner that occurs, the better your hits get, the faster you get. And you're doing all the other non-shooting stuff, faster than you ever have before because you've put all this work in. And it all comes together. And the only thing to worry about is, what is an acceptable sight picture based on the level of difficulty or distance of the target? That's it. When I'm shooting a stage and I'm going I put up those point of view camera, videos, right? Matthew, you've seen some of those.
Yep.
And I will sometimes do that because I like posting this stuff. I want people to see, from my point of view, this looks chaotic. To an outsider looking in, wait, the gun's just going and the red dots jumping up and down. I mean, just it's kind of chaotic looking if you're not used to seeing that. In the moment, it doesn't look like that to me at all. I'm just looking for dot, 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 trigger, 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 trigger. And it's going lickety split. But I'm seeing sight pictures every time. Okay. And the only thing I'm wondering about, or the only thing I'm concerned about is that acceptable sight picture. Okay, so when you see me go to a small popper or a small target at a further distance back, you're going to see everything kind of pause a little bit, because it has to take that pause for things to settle while I'm prepping the trigger a little more carefully, because that's what it takes, right? And so then you see this smaller, further away target, bang, bang, but then I instantly transition over to a wide open USPSA target at 5 yards. And what does that look? I mean, I'm going from this this mini popper at 15, bang, over to this wide open target at 5, whack, whack, right? Bang, bang. And because it's a lot closer, it's a lot easier. And what's acceptable is a lot more generous. And as soon as I see what's acceptable, as soon as I see that dot anywhere in that A zone or close to that A zone, I'm sending that shot. And the gun bounces up and it comes back down. I see that dot come back down somewhere in that A zone, and I send another one. It's all about the visual feedback I'm getting through the sight picture as I'm shooting. And I'm making sure everything else is ready to go as soon as I see the acceptable sight picture. That's all it is. I hope for some people it makes sense. I know for some shooters, depending on what level you're at, you might hear this and go, "Oh, I don't," there may be some things that are going over your head or that are not quite clicking yet, and that's okay. All right. But that's the key. We practice accuracy to an acceptable accuracy standard. Then we practice speed, and we push. We want to go to the limit of what we can physically do in an ideal world.
And safely, right?
And safely, of course. Yes, of course. Always be safe. And then when we bring the two back together, we do all the non-shooting stuff as fast as we can. And we only shoot as fast as we can see acceptable sight pictures.
Right on, man.
You do that and you'll get both. You'll get both speed and acceptable accuracy.
Yeah, that's the craziest part when you tell somebody, hey, we're gonna, we want you to get faster and more accurate, and they're like, those two things are, opposites. What, like, if I go faster, I must get less accurate, and it's not true. To a certain point, yes, right? Like, but it doesn't have to be to the detriment of, or to the extreme of missing, right? Like, getting back, you're still getting hits. So, but it's cool that I think once shooters start getting that balance and realize they can shoot fast and be accurate, it's like you see like the smile lights up, you know what I mean? Because they start realizing, okay, I've been kind of looking at this equation wrong.
Yep. Let me throw out one last thought is that a lot of tug of war issues, between speed and accuracy at shooters' experience is where shooters are focused more on an imagined cadence that they're supposed to be shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
And they get stuck in, well, I know, or I feel like I'm supposed to go bang, 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 bang. And so that's what they do no matter what they see through the sight, in their sight picture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the wrong approach. And that definitely will lead to this tug of war, because the reality is your skill level will be to a point where there is a cadence that you're, an automatic cadence, a consistent cadence that you're able to maintain control with. And that's, but that cadence won't be as fast as you are actually capable of going. Because if you actually shoot at the speed of sight, which is a phrase that Matt Little likes to use, then you're going to, things are going to happen a little bit more, a little bit faster. Okay. And the key is actually learning what you need to see for it to be acceptable, but don't get sucked into, well, when, I watched this video online of a guy running a build drill and it sounded like this: beep, draw, bang, 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 bang. Or one more shot, I guess. That was only 5, I guess. But in your mind, you think, okay, for me to succeed and get a 2-second build drill, that's the pace I have to go at. And so you set yourself up and you sort of pre-program yourself to hear the beep and go bang, 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 bang. Right? Was that 6 or 7? And you're not, you think you're using your sights, but you're actually more just depending upon your index of keeping the gun on the target, because you're really ignoring your sights if you're just shooting to a cadence. So shoot to your sights, all right, and shoot as soon as you see a sight picture that is acceptable. On you iron-sighted guns or shooters, 7 yards build drill, that front sight just has to be somewhere in the rear notch. You don't have to have equal height, equal light. You only need equal height, equal light when you're making a very precise shot. When you're trying to shoot 3-inch groups at 25 yards. At 7 yards, you just need to see front sight somewhere in the rear notch. Somewhere. Just get it in there. And that's good enough, typically. For a red dot shooter, what's acceptable is you have to get more comfortable with a lot more movement, okay, in the dot, and recognizing where it is and what's acceptable and what's not. Right, because if on a build drill, 7 yards, if you're a red dot shooter and you see a solid dot, then you're shooting wrong. You're shooting that wrong. Like, that dot should constantly be moving. All right, and that's kind of a description between two differences of what's acceptable sight pictures: iron sights, front sight, somewhere in the rear sight. Red dot, never stop moving. It's constantly floating over top of the target area. And at 7 yards, I promise you can keep that thing within that A zone if your grip is reasonably decent. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, Matthew. So speed or accuracy, and how to get better at both, or how to get both. I hope that there's been some words of wisdom in today's episode that set some of you guys on the right path. What do you think, Matthew? Final words?
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, and the questions, comments and stuff in the chat is really helpful. We get to address them specifically, but overall, guys, and gals, don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself, because sometimes we do that to ourselves. So,
yeah. Guys, just a reminder to go check out the Shooter Ready Challenge, shooterreadychallenge.com. Also, our sponsors, make sure you support them. All right. Laserapp.com, LASRAPP.com, and Next Level Training, found at nextleveltraining.com. Appreciate your support of our sponsors and of our show. It wouldn't be possible without your support and without our sponsors' support and without your support of our sponsors. So finally, before we let you go, we need to do a giveaway.
Yes, sir.
And we are giving away, I think it's one of these. It's not.
Cleaning
Ready
kit.
Up Gear pistol cleaning kit.
You bet.
So we should have some signups for that. And Matthew is going to pick us a winner. Before we pick that winner, what are we giving away next week?
Next week is going to be the laser dot trainer.
Sweet.
Yes.
All right. So you guys are going to get the new Ready Up Gear laser dot training cartridge. That'll pair very nicely with something like Laser X, and to be able to use in dry fire and get some data from your dry fire practice.
Yep.
So make sure you're signing up for our weekly podcast giveaways at concealedcarry.com/podcast prize. Here's a drum roll for this week's winner of the Ready Up Gear.
Congratulations, Lee.
Pistol cleaning kit. Sorry.
Yeah, pistol cleaning kit from Ready Up Gear. Lee, you won. Your last name starts with a J. I'll be emailing you. If that's your name, if you have the name Lee, check your spam folder. It might have gone to your spam folder. So there you go. Congratulations.
Awesome. Well, guys, appreciate you being here with us for this episode. And we will be back here later this afternoon, Jacob and I actually, doing a show together at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, for those of you that want to participate live. For those of you listening remotely via the podcast feed, we appreciate you. And if you're ever able to catch a live show, you know where to find us, hopefully on Facebook and YouTube. But until next time, a reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.